Good evening. Good evening. My name is Eric Motley, and I work here at the Aspen Institute, and I'm a writer. I'm sure you've never read any of my memos. I've been working on a book for the last couple of years, and when Adrian invited me, Amy and Jamie, I was most delighted. I think they thought it would encourage my writing interest. After meeting so many writers here tonight, I've decided just to become a professional reader. You know, 67 years ago, not far from here in an open field, which we call now the Aspen Meadows, there was a great convening that took place. And it was really the start of the Aspen Institute. There were a couple of thousand great public intellectuals and writers and artists, really great writers. And they all came together to re-examine the Aristotelian idea of what a good life really was to be and how to quicken the making of a good society. There were two keynote speakers. One was Albert Schweitzer, who actually thought he was going to Chicago, and the other was Thornton Wilder. And they both captured this idea, the power of literature as the greatest tool and resource to transform society and to transform the imagination and the moral conscience of the awakening of the mind to the important ideas that needed to be addressed. And thus was founded the Center for Humanistic Studies, the Aspen Institute. So as you can see, at the heart of who we are and what we do and what we believe is the power of words and language and the power of ideas to transform society. Tonight, in keeping with that tradition, we have two great writers, two great women. 22 months ago, or with 22 months left, Paul realized that he had to live out his own personal calling in writing. And he wrote a powerful book, When Breath Becomes Air. He left behind his wife, Lucy, an 8-month-old daughter, Caddy, and he also left on his computer a manuscript that his wife, Lucy, saw to completion. Thank you, Lucy. That's a great pairing, a great marriage, and a great commitment to helping us to realize the beauty of a wonderful story that needed to be told. We also have with us a great American writer that most of us know, Ann Patchett, who has received the Orange Prize. You can applaud. The Faulkner Prize, and most of us have read her novel, Bel Canto. So we're privileged to have both of them. And by the way, I've actually been to your bookstore in Nashville. So I would like to invite the two of you up. What a wonderful pairing to engage us in a conversation about when breath becomes air and the life of literature. Ladies, join us here on the stage.
And not just jump in. Okay.
All right. I'm going to be very sudden and help you.
Thank you. Here, you still
Yes,
can.
I can.
Thank you very
Madame,
much.
please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy.
Where am I going? Okay. This is good.
Hi.
Hi, Ann Patchett.
Hi, Lucy Kalanithi.
I explained to Lucy when we met that her name was Kalanithi with the V on the end, and we were happy to find that out.
Well, I used to, when I had patients who didn't know how to say it, I would say, it kind of sounds like calamity.
Oh, that's good.
So your doctor's Dr. Calamity, and I was like, that's not
good.
going to work.
That's
So
bad.
now I'll just say your doctor's Dr. Klonopin.
And everybody
gonna do-
loves Dr. Kalanithi, right? Oh, I thought that joke would really fly in Aspen. So Lucy's going to be Albert Schweitzer, and I'm going to be Thornton Wilder tonight. Just before I left the hotel to come over here, I called my bookstore, Parnassus in Nashville, to find out, as of this minute, how many copies of When Breath Becomes Air, a tiny little independent bookstore in Nashville, has sold, and it was 349 copies, which is very good. Very strong. I do this sort of thing a lot now that I have a bookstore. I interview people on stage, and it's fun. It's great. Or it's not. Oh, for a brief second, I almost told you who was bad, and then I caught it. But this is really a case of me getting to meet someone who I'm dying to meet. And we were talking like crazy at the party before, and this is so nice because you're quiet now, and you weren't before. And I just have so many things I want to ask you and so many things I want to talk about. And you're here, and that's great, but really if you weren't, it wouldn't make any difference. Because this is so exciting for me. And we've been emailing a little bit.
Ann Patchett emails me.
I love this book, like everybody loves this book. And as a bookseller, you know, the question that I get and the question that you get, you know, is, maybe people don't say this to you, is like, I think I want to read this book, but I think it's going to make me too sad. And as a bookseller, I always say it'll make you way too sad, but it will make you appreciate the value of your own life and your own potential, and it will wake you up to life and to life's potential. And there's, I don't know if I'm going to need my glasses or not on this, but there's a quote in the beginning by Abraham Verghese. Now that one,
Yeah, Verghese.
Verghese.
Who knew? Yeah,
no, I had no
Verghese.
idea. Verghese, Abraham Verghese. It says, and because in the context of Paul's diagnosis, I became aware not just of his mortality, but my own. And that really is something, that, a gift that the book gave me, and I think gives everyone. What about the weight of understanding your own mortality? And has it changed your own understanding of your mortality? And what's like to live with that for you?
This is the question I fear. This is the second highest on the list of questions I fear. Number
Maybe.
one is, what's the meaning of life? And then number two, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, I think.
What is the?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I've kind of learned, this is a little bit of a sideways answer to the question, but I feel as if I have this sort of much deeper understanding and appreciation maybe for the fact that, you know, living and dying and suffering are sort of all intermixed, you know, and in our house it was a bunch of stark contrasts. So there was Paul, who was dying, and we knew it, and then the manuscript was growing, and Katie was growing, and it's sort of just this kind of mixing. It's not like, I don't know, I think thinking about my own mortality, I think I can just sort of sit with that fact in a way that even as a physician before, I didn't sort of feel it in my bones in the same way. And I'm sort of okay with it. I had this, can I tell you a thing that happened last year?
Everything.
So last year, I mean, this is just a little simple metaphor, but have you ever celebrated Day of the Dead?
I've never
Ryan, you
celebrated,
should do
but
Day of the Dead at your new building. So Dia de los Muertos, November 1st, and it's like a little bit, our Halloween echoes it a little bit maybe, but it's so much bigger and better. It's, you know, this festival incorporating death and loved ones who've died, and then there's this really weird contrast between these colorful skulls and these bright paper flowers, and then little children are getting their faces painted like a skull, and the cemetery where Paul is buried celebrated Day of the Dead, and they do a really nice thing on Memorial Day, and they do Qingming, which is a Chinese festival. And then they did Day of the Dead, and on Day of the Dead, in the cemetery, they had a taco truck and a mariachi band.
Oh
Yes,
my God.
that's what I made that face. I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm here to visit my husband's grave, and my daughter's here, my niece is here, and like, we would love some tacos. Thank you. You know, and it's like that's the way I think of my own mortality now, is like, it's hard, like it's heartbreaking, it's hard, these facts are heartbreaking, but they also are just there. And the person who helped me write the epilogue, maybe we'll talk about this, Emily Rapp, who's a writer. She was going to be a ghostwriter, and then she ended up kind of being a coach. But anyway, she wrote this book called Still Pointing to the Turning World, about her baby dying. And she was talking about the loss of her baby, and she said, these are the wages of mortal love. And it's like mortal love and mortal bodies. It's like, that's what we have, you know?
Yeah, and we all die. And that's one of the things when I reread the book, and I was talking to my husband about it. My husband is an internist, and I was saying, why is this so much harder? Like, we know it.
Yeah.
It happens again and again, and you think about war and all throughout the ages. This is our destiny, and yet we manage to forget it. But Paul lives so presently in it, eyes wide open, experiencing it and putting it down for us. And it makes something that is, after birth, the most ordinary thing we will ever do seem so shocking and impossible.
But also ordinary, right?
No.
Really?
No.
Okay.
Extraordinary. It felt extraordinary. It's that he elevated the ordinary to the extraordinary that seemed so incredible. Two quotes that come up in the book that I love. One is, I have to look up Beckett. Beckett, I can't go on, I will go on.
Yeah.
And then the other one is yours, which is the C.S. Lewis quote. That was Paul's. And then yours is the C.S. Lewis quote, bereavement is not the truncation of married love, but one of its phases. So I want to talk about both of those quotes. Let's talk about the Beckett first. And is that part of your mantra now, or is that just his?
Oh, sure. I love it. I love it a lot. I can't go on. I will go on. And he wrote about it. Do you want me to just respond to that?
Anything.
So Paul, immediately, I'll just back up a little bit. So when he first was diagnosed with metastatic lung cancer, like the moment of diagnosis, it wasn't even delivered to us in spoonfuls. It was looking at his CT scan and seeing the cancer in his organs, and both of us knew that it was terminal. We didn't know how long. And he was a neurosurgery resident in his 6th year, and he barely read a decent book. You know, he was reading anatomy atlases and stuff, but had been an English major and thought he'd be a writer. And immediately, as we were packing for that hospitalization when he was diagnosed, he packed books in the little bag we took to the hospital. You know, we took like phone chargers and insurance card and stuff like that. And he took books. He took Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, Being in Time by Heidegger, and
One of my favorites when I kick back. Yeah.
Kick back, right? If you're not feeling well.
Right.
And Cancer Ward by Solzhenitsyn. And that was maybe the first book he read after being diagnosed, but he just became a reader again and needed words. And he says in the book, I needed words to go forward. And so he did have these little phrases or poems or whatever, and they were like little amulets, you know, and that was one of them.
Were those 3 books in your house, and had he read them already? Or had he just meant to read them? Was he rereading them, or was he reading them?
He had not read Cancer Ward. And the other 2 he'd read. And then we had seen his chest x-ray, which like we hoped it was tuberculosis. It's like not, you know you're having a bad day when you hope. And then, but he was like, okay, this is probably metastatic cancer. And he was like, I haven't read this book yet. I'm gonna take this one, you know. But he got right in it. He wanted to like you said, he looked it straight in the eye, and he wanted to do that even immediately. It was pretty interesting. He wanted to put words on it.
Did he
or
read
this
it?
empathy thing, right? That idea with like empathizing with other people's stories. It's also giving you tools get into your own life, right? You know, like it's
Exactly.
amazing. Yeah, so he was doing that all the time.
Well, and I think that's what a successful memoir is, when you can
Yeah.
take something that is unbelievably personal and specific and yet somehow make
Yeah.
it a universal twist. And
Yeah.
I've read really bad memoirs, more than you can possibly imagine, where somehow the person fails to make that connection to the reader.
Oh,
Because they're telling their own specific story, but I can't possibly relate to it.
Yeah.
And then if it's a story that you think, you know, and again, like John Hodgman's book, or like Lucy Greeley's book, Autobiography of a Face, you know, this is about a kid who has cancer. What in the world do I know about that sort of a suffering as a child? But she makes a leap to the universal. And that's what Paul does. And so we hang on to those little phrases because he
Yeah.
hangs on to the phrase.
yeah.
All right, talk about the C.S. Lewis. Talk about the bereavement quote.
Oh, yeah. So after Paul died, I had this stack of books on my, it was like all the books, the widow books, right? So people kept sending me like Joan Didion's book. And it's really,
Oh, I
it's
never
actually,
thought about that.
yeah. There's like or Raymond Carver, his wife or partner,
Tess Gallagher.
Yeah, she published the blah, 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 Waterfall. What's the title of those?
Yeah,
It's
I remember.
Really
Yeah,
amazing poems. And she writes the foreword to it about how she wanted to make sure that it was published. I think there's this really interesting story, and I was like, I relate to that thing. I want to do that thing. And so I was reading A Grief Observed, which is actually really, really raw and heartbreaking, and I almost like couldn't. It was like looking at a bright light. And
Who wrote that?
C.S. Lewis.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
that's
After
the C.S. Lewis
losing
quote.
his
Okay.
wife died of cancer,
All right.
like American wife, and he had this quote, and it's so great. It says, "Bereavement's not the truncation of married love; it's one of its regular phases. What we want is to live our marriage well and faithfully through that phase too."
Oh, God.
And it's so sort of counterintuitive, but that's what I felt like I wanted to do. And at the time, I was working with Andy Ward at Random House on Paul's manuscript and like deep in it, making sure that it could be published as a book, and then making decisions like, what will the cover look like? And it urgently needs to have this sensibility, and I can't tell you even how to do it. I can just tell you when it's right. You know, like it was so urgent. And so I felt that quote, I was like, yes, bereavement isn't the truncation, it's a phase.
Okay, so I watched the interview that you did with Katie Couric. Lucy sent me a bunch of links to watch that were incredibly helpful. And the one with Katie Couric totally broke my heart. And she doesn't say a thing about herself, and she's asking you these questions and you're answering. But her face, just looking at her face and knowing she went through all of this. So I emailed Lucy and I said, Katie Couric, oh, that just killed me. And you said, she's such a great widow.
Oh.
You wondered where I was
And
going
then I
with that
also
one.
said, I'm not walking around judging widows.
That's right, you did. So if you maybe you're a widow and you haven't done a terrific job, no judgment. But what did that mean? What did you see in Katie Couric that you were like?
Well, okay, it came later. So she was talking about her husband who died, Jay Monahan, and then now
Off
she's
camera.
married to someone. Oh yeah, Tim. Sorry,
Yeah.
not in the interview. She told me about it after, and she
Right.
was being really kind to me because she was connecting on this personal level. And you can tell she's nice. Like she has like real smile lines. You can
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
she looks like
yeah.
a nice person, and she really was. I mean, I really liked her. And then. She invited me to go to this cancer fundraiser for Stand Up to Cancer, which she helped found, and it was in New York, and I was visiting my sister. So I went and got a makeover and went to the thing. And she's remarried, and her husband, John, was with her, and then her late husband's two sisters were there, and one of them was giving her new husband a back massage for a second, and then two of the sisters were dancing with Katie Couric on this stage with, like, all these people were dancing, and then she got up and said, I want to thank John for helping me honor Jay, and then the sisters are there, and I just was like, this is what a family is about. Like it's just like shit happens and everyone is trying to love each other, you know, and help each other and give each other the benefit of the doubt. And the new husband and the old husband, I just was like, this is a role model.
Yeah, that's best case scenario stuff.
Sure.
I mean, it's incredible.
It's aspirational. It's aspirational. It's
Well,
aspirational.
it's something that it seems like you've achieved, and you said Paul's family is astonishing.
Paul's family is awesome. My family's awesome too.
Yeah.
But Paul's family's awesome. And I was just like, that's the Stuman and that's the Jeevan and here's the other thing. And it's just like, yeah, it's aspirational, but it's true. It's good.
When we were talking before, you said something about the mail that you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about that, because is it like widow and grief kind of mail? Every book I get a certain kind of mail, and it's maybe not the mail I was expecting. So I was really interested in that. That's not on my cards, but I was so interested. What is that mail like?
Oh, yeah.
And does it
Yeah.
fit into this grief stuff?
And as an aside, this experience is going to make me write to writers and tweet writers, which maybe you're going to tell me not to do it, but I've loved it. It's a different thing. If everything people write me feels like a eulogy or like a condolence card, doesn't matter what they say, but that's how I'm experiencing it, right? And
you like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I find it really helpful. And many people are saying a way in which the book affected them, or somebody said, my son is dying of cancer and he and his wife are deciding to have a baby and I didn't understand it and I've been really angry. And then this helped me understand it some more. And she
that's
said,
beautiful.
It was amazing. And she said, if you're ever in New Hampshire, come to our house, sit at our table, because you've made it a different place. Right? Oh, can you believe it?
Yeah,
and
I
it's
can.
like, oh man. So
Yeah.
it's really, I could get letters like that all day.
But
Right?
that says a lot of good things about you, because sometimes I find interacting with other people's pain,
Oh, yeah.
it can be
Yeah.
really good,
Yeah.
and then there can be days when it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard.
I don't know how an introvert would do a book tour, but
I've got
I'm
that in
I'm
one
an
of my
extreme
questions.
extrovert, and like Paul was a writer and I'm a talker, and so it's like almost categorically good.
Wow.
And then the hardest parts are when I'm at home alone, and it's like Katie goes to bed at 7, and then I'm just home every night. But so that time, but it's good to have that time, right? But it makes me want to spend all the rest of the time talking to people.
Is it good to have that time? I don't know.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay.
Something would be missing without that, I think.
Yeah. If you want to go on book tour for me,
Great. Oh, yes, perfect pairing. Yes.
I'll give you half of my advance if you go.
I'm in.
Now, appearing in the role of Ann Patchett is Lucy Kalanithi. Yay!
Please.
Okay, you said we both gave, and I love this, we both gave each other the benefit of the doubt. And then you also said in one of the interviews that I watched, we had unconditional love. Those two things, benefit of the doubt and unconditional love. Talk about that, because that's really hard, and we don't do a great job with that. And you were saying, you can have that with your daughter.
Yeah.
But how you managed to have that with an adult.
Yeah. I'll say a similar thing, I think, to what I said in that interview.
It was good.
But
Say it again.
It's basically, so I do feel like when Paul got sick, so he writes in the book about how we'd been going through this rough patch in our marriage, right at the time he was diagnosed, just before it all kind of blew up in a good way, and then he was diagnosed like 2 weeks later. And I'm really glad it all got onto the table, and we were hopeful, and we started drawing back together, and then it was just kind of like, turns out this is the thing we're going to have to do together, right at his diagnosis. But it was hard to be married to a neurosurgery resident. I mean,
can't
you're working
even
like
imagine.
115 hours a week, and it's like you barely have emotional and physical energy to do your job. Am I squeaking or something? Is that okay? Should I do something else? That's better, right? Let me see. I think it might be me.
We can all just hold our mics in our lap, because remember, the antenna wants to point to the source.
Well, I feel like when I talk, there's a little. Okay, we'll see how it goes.
All right.
Yeah, that's that. Isn't that funny?
It could be your hair. All right.
We'll see how. Yeah, keep going. Yeah, so it was difficult. The challenges of that career were really big, and then.
Well, and it also isn't like you were working at J. Crew. I mean,
Yeah.
you were a doctor as well, so you had a lot.
I love J. Crew.
I do too.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's like both of us are working really
Yeah.
hard. Yeah, yeah.
Crazy hard.
Yeah.
And you were at the same place, weren't? I mean, you graduated from medical school at the same time?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. But his residency was
Right.
longer, so his hours were worse for longer. And then when he got sick, and so he's diagnosed with terminal cancer and he knows he's going to die probably within a couple of years, maybe longer. There's some new advances, maybe 7, maybe 10, but he's not going to live to be 80. He decided to go back to work as a neurosurgeon initially, and it was because of the possibility of the 7 years or 10 years. And he was like, if I live 10 years and I'm not a neurosurgeon, I'm going to be really mad. And so initially he did that, and that helped me understand something about his decision to become a neurosurgeon, because when we fell in love in medical school, he was going to be a psychiatrist. He was sort of this calm, funny, thoughtful, literary guy who was going to be a psychiatrist. And then he was one of those people who's like, I love the operating room, I want to be a neurosurgeon. And that culture is like super intense, it's just like, I was like, you're going to be a what? Why are you going to be a neurosurgeon? And I knew it was hard on a marriage. But
Well, and also, can I just say,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that this isn't true of Paul, but surgeons are really different. Right?
Well,
I mean, I'm
yeah.
married to an internist.
Yeah.
And we socialize with some surgeons. And if you were marrying somebody, you were married to
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
who was going to be a psychiatrist,
Yeah.
and then they came home and they said, I'm going to be a neurosurgeon, you really would be like, as my husband, who doesn't swear, would say, whiskey tango foxtrot. What's up with that?
It was crazy. Yeah. But then you can tell if you read the book how deeply felt that
Right.
was. And I didn't even totally have a sense of it until he's dying and he wants to go back and do it.
Oh, that's
Because I was just,
interesting. That's
are you doing
interesting.
then I was like, oh, you just get on the train and you're working. And then he still wants to do it. And it was like, oh, that is so helpful. That's such useful information for me to understand, like all the threads that led you here and how much this means to your identity and what you're doing with your life. And then meanwhile, I also had this real urge to help him live his life in a way that, he was dying, and how do you help somebody live through that time? And so my love was somewhat unconditional. It was like, great, you want to go back to work? Like, how can I help you do it? How can we time your medications so you can do it? And then when he was writing, it was a similar thing. Like, he was on a stimulant for a while. He was on something like similar to Ritalin to help him focus and concentrate, even though he was fatigued and on these medications that had side effects. And it's funny because you don't have unconditional love with grown-ups, and you shouldn't, right? It's not like you're married to somebody and it's like there's no conditions on this relationship. But
Well,
I just felt like I felt this
Aspirational. I'd like
deep,
to have unconditional
aspirational,
love.
yeah,
I would.
aspirational, yeah.
I got it with my dog. That's kind of it.
Yeah, but it was nice. It was nice to have that feeling,
Yes,
And it's
I think
I have
I
it
think
still
it would actually be
after
sort
he.
of transcendent
Yeah,
to have that feeling.
yeah,
It's godlike
yeah.
to have that feeling.
And I had it still after he died, because I was telling Ryan, I made this friend at dinner. So we, after he died, Random House said, the bit about your marriage and the bit about deciding to do IVF and, I don't know, a couple little pieces. Do you want us to redact them? Do you want us to edit them? I was like, no, they are what Paul wrote. Unconditional,
Of course.
that's his book. And then also it was like, oh, that's a juicy part that if I were a reader, I would appreciate that it was interesting and deep and messy and not tied up in a bow. I mean, it's all the things that you would want it to be too, in a literary sense, but truly it was just like, that's the real stuff, and Paul wrote it down, so that part, is unconditional too.
Gosh. I mean, that of all of it, that comes across so strongly and comes across in your epilogue and throughout the book. And I think that that's Well, I'm going to get to this question. I hate it when the cards aren't in the right order.
Aren't they your cards?
They are my cards. Hold on. It's such a good question, and it's a good follow-up. All right, here we go. Now I'm switching order. This is you from the epilogue. Although these last few years have been wrenching and difficult, sometimes almost impossible, they've also been the most beautiful and profound of my life, requiring the daily act of holding life and death, joy and pain in balance, and exploring new depths of gratitude and love. Okay, so that speaks to the whole unconditional love. There, in my experience, when you're with someone who's dying, there is a tremendous light that you stay in. And it is the light of understanding life and the brevity of life. And it's gorgeous, gorgeous. I have a friend, a really close friend, who's a writer whose sister is dying right now of a glioblastoma. And she's left her life, she's left her home and her husband, and she's moved in with her sister because her sister didn't want to leave her house. And they're just watching the Mindy Project all day. They're just like in bed together all day. And her sister has 3 days or 2 weeks or something left to live. And we talk about this, like the light that she's like, it's such joy. It's such joy to be there with her.
I love that she's in the bed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're so together. And it's also been my experience that stays for a while after the person dies, that you know what's important. Everything is crystal clear. It makes perfect sense. But with that, there's, in my experience, unbelievably irritating noise of life, of people who are not living in crystal clarity, of people who are really upset because they can't open the plastic wrap on their sandwich, or every single thing about Donald Trump, or and you just kind of think, wow, if you were living in the light of clarity of the death of a loved one, or if you understood the preciousness of this moment, and I have had this experience. My sister's husband died. She had that experience. It's crushing to hear the little constant babble of idiocy that surrounds normal life. You having problems with that?
I'm really good at airports now, because in airports, everybody's like, I'm going somewhere. This is delayed however long, and I'm supposed to be somewhere. And you're like, everybody here is supposed to be somewhere, and probably it's all okay. And so I'm really good at airports now. But then there's the flip side too, which is, it's not like you're doing that all the time, because even what you're describing with your friend, the Mindy Project is part of the experience, right? So, and so that's not crystal clear. That's the Mindy Project, and it's all just like, you can't do all of it all the time.
The crystal clarity is, hey, we never had the time to watch the Mindy Project, but you know what? That sounds really good today.
No, but that's
Let's
it.
just
That's
stay
it, right?
home.
But right,
because
that's
we're
it
going to
too.
do what's
Yeah.
right for this moment.
Yeah, I love it.
But
Yeah.
so you're okay.
You know, it's not like it's like serious all the time.
No,
that's what I mean.
No, it's absolutely not.
Yeah.
But the
it's just
again
like
the noise. You know, if you feel like you got this great lesson in this great light, it's hard to go in and out of it for me. But maybe you're just incredibly well adjusted and you're fine.
You know, it makes me understand something about the hospital as a place to work or be. And I think, so in the book, Paul describes this really well when he's talking about, all of his conversations with his doctor, because she did this really well, where she's sort of just talking to him about what matters to him as a person, and it's not about, like, the noise of the treatments and the noise of the whatever, and this guesses at prognostication, and, you know, there's pluses and minuses to the way she did it, but I feel like the hospital and medical care are like a lot of noise some of the time, and then the fact of what really matters, that I think maybe is a really real, and I'm really grateful for that. piece of the answer to your question. You know, it's like,
It seemed really important to me that on 2 different occasions when you needed his oncologist, she was on vacation with her children.
oh yeah.
And it felt like a little message, like, you still go on vacation with your
Yeah.
children, like everyone's life is going on. And that Paul seemed to respect that. You seem to respect that. Like, good for you for still going on
I
vacation
didn't even
with
think
your
about
children.
it.
Yeah.
But you're right, he wrote about it twice, and it
Yeah.
happened. Yeah, so I do think that. Like, yeah, she should go on vacation. She gets to go on vacation, yeah. But it's true, you miss her when she's gone.
I can't
Like
even
that,
imagine.
that relationship was so much more intense than I ever knew from the other side. Like, we loved her. Loved. You know, it's like we needed her. And Paul was like a independent, confident guy and like depended on her.
Yeah.
You know, it was really interesting and beautiful and surprising.
My husband has said to me that the people who fall in love with their doctors are not necessarily the patients so much. The patients love their doctors, but the people who fall in love with their doctors are the adult children of the people you're taking care of. The women who want my husband
Yeah.
are the women who he's been taking care of their parents because they love you so much and they depend on
need
you so
you.
much
Yeah.
and that's the person
Yeah.
who comes through for you.
Yeah. When Paul died, I got tons and tons of flowers from people, and I sent flowers to her.
Oh God.
It's just like, I love her. You know?
Are you still in touch with her?
Uh-huh.
That's that
Like, not a lot, but like, yeah, a little bit.
but that means
Yeah.
you're really special because obviously they can't do that for
Right,
everybody.
you can't do that for everybody.
Can't do that.
But I have her cell phone number. So I text her. She
Okay.
sends me a little text. That's it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
We agreed, this is Paul, we agreed that life is not about avoiding suffering, it's about creating meaning. Throughout this book, there seemed to be such a strong line of Buddhist thought. Was that my imagination? I mean,
Oh.
that to me is like, okay, what does Buddhism mean? We agreed that life is not about avoiding suffering, it's about creating meaning. I mean, if the Buddha had stationery printed up, that's what it would say.
Yeah, sure. I don't think that's your imagination, although, well, I don't even know what to say about it. I don't think that's your imagination, although not sort of explicitly, either culturally or even in really what Paul was reading. But sure, I think that,
The world's not full of people who would say, we're not about avoiding suffering. Or, the whole thing of, he's saying, I'm not going to say why me, I'm going to say why not me. And also that he's not going to do battle with cancer.
right,
It's like, yeah, I understand. People get this. It happens.
right.
Super sorry it happens to me, but that's really not the point because suffering is part of the story. People aren't like that, right?
Well, so I've never read Man's Search for Meaning, but
neither.
someone was talking to, so we should read it. It's,
Oh, we can
yeah.
have like a book club.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I have a bookstore. I'll send you a copy.
But someone described it to me the other day, Viktor Frankl's writing, as the Maslow, no, it's not Maslow. Yeah, Maslow's hierarchy? Yeah, flipped on its head because it's like, Maslow is like, okay, there's food and shelter down here, and then there's self-actualization way up here. But you can not have hardly any of the other stuff, and if you have meaning and purpose, you're okay. And someone just said this the other day at a dinner party or something, and I was like, I relate to that. Because Paul, as he was dying, had a purpose, felt meaning and had this purpose, and it was very sustaining. So what was this? Oh, life was not about avoiding suffering. Yeah, it's sort of just like, yeah.
That's very advanced. I mean, the whole...
I have a therapist who's awesome, who wrote this thing on her little whiteboard one time when I was going through like a much lesser challenge, but I was really upset and angry. This was like 7 years ago or something. And she wrote, pain plus non-acceptance of pain equals suffering. And at the time, I was like, I don't get it. This must not be. I don't accept it. And she was like, I know. I can see that. And now I kind of get that more. Like there is a different, pain is one thing and we're guaranteed that. And then suffering is like potentially something different.
Yeah.
Although actually, like the life is not about avoiding suffering. You could substitute pain or suffering for that. Sort of like it's impossible to avoid. I don't know. I don't have it figured out. I don't have it figured out. I feel like stuff's coming out of my mouth, and I'm like, do I even believe what I'm saying? I don't know. It's like it's aspirational, but it is kind of like, oh,
This
now
is
I
the
can
aspirational
now I
conversation.
can like sit with it in a way that I couldn't before. You know, I just like. Just tolerate it.
It isn't possible to avoid suffering, but that's what makes it so interesting when somebody comes in the bookstore and is like, yeah, I really want to read this book, but it's going to hurt. And you want to say, guess what? You know what? Everything's going to hurt. It's all going to hurt. It's not about avoiding suffering.
Yeah.
It's not about not reading a book because the book is going to make you sad. It's
Oh,
about
yeah, right.
the
Yeah.
meaning that you will get from the experience of reading the book. It's about keeping your eyes open and being present in your life. And that this book forces you to do that. Talk about bearing witness.
Oh.
Because
Yeah.
we as readers are bearing witness to you as a person bearing witness to Paul.
Yeah. I'm not sure what to say.
Okay, I'll tell you a story. I have a really good friend in Nashville who's a priest, who runs a homeless shelter. And I don't see him very often, but every now and then he calls me or I go down to see him. And his life is hard, and he just takes it so beautifully. And I can't help him. He is helping people, but I can bear witness to him. I can just go and be with him and go on his rounds or sit and talk to him. Or I don't talk to him at all. I just listen to him talk because nobody listens to him. But I can
yeah.
bear witness to his suffering.
Yeah.
And once I was writing a piece about him, and we got together and I was asking him to tell me the story about his parents, who both, I'll tell you the story later, but it was a phenomenally interesting story. And they had very hard deaths. And they died, his father died when he was a little boy, and his mother was murdered when he was probably in his late 50s. And he's telling me this story, he starts to cry. And he said, I never tell this story. No one ever asks me about myself. No one ever asks me about my parents. And we were sitting in this little room together. And I just thought, it's such a gift to be able to bear witness to you.
Yeah.
It's the only way I can help you is to bear witness. Tell me about bearing witness.
Well, it kind of makes me want to say a slightly different thing, which is, so I totally relate to what you're saying as far as doing that for Paul and with Paul. But then the bearing witness, like, I think about grief, and people say, how is it for you promoting Paul's book? And like, what's it like?
Right.
I'm sitting here talking to you. It's really helpful for me.
Yes.
And that is a form of bearing witness, right? Like people are doing that for me all the time. And people are saying Paul's name and asking me about Paul. And when you were talking about your friend who said, I don't get a chance to talk about my parents, nobody's asking about my parents.
Yes.
And how great is that to be able to just have somebody witness and hear that. I think my experience promoting a book about my late husband, who I still love and feel proud of and want to talk about for all kinds of reasons, is super helpful and teaches me a thing about grief and how I might talk to people in the future, like you did with your friend.
And I had a very, very similar experience because I wrote a book about my friend who died, Lucy, my Lucy, Truth and Beauty, and it's fantastic. And I'm sort of evangelical on the subject. Whenever I go and I'm giving a talk about a different book, and somebody says, let me ask you, I love Truth and Beauty, let me ask you about Lucy, and I have this whole spiel about everybody wants to talk about the person that they miss. No one has forgotten their mother. I don't care if your mother died 50 years ago. Would she like this program tonight? Would she have fun? Would she have liked dinner? Would she just, would it blow her mind to see what Aspen is like now? Whatever. And we have this sense that we're going to remind people.
Right. right, we're going to make it worse, we're going to make them cry, or like,
Maybe
oh, what if we upset them by mentioning the person? It's like, oh, either they're already sad, in which case, go ahead, because that's just going to make them feel more connected.
Right.
Or, yeah, they want to be talking about it. Yeah. I don't know. Like I say, I'm a talker. It's hard for me to know what other people always want to do, but certainly, yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I
Sharing.
want to be a grief counselor. I mean, I just want to go around and give talks about grief and say, it feels so
Yeah.
good to take the time. And time. You know, everybody else gets 3 weeks for their grief.
I know,
And you,
I
because
know.
of the book, me, because of the book, and I kind of must think that's why they asked me to come and interview you. You know, it's that we get to talk about it forever. You'll get to talk about this forever.
Right.
Because you have a structure and a framework in which to talk about it. And
Right, like you're allowed to go there. Yeah. But it's true, you don't forget.
never.
Yeah.
And you can talk about it for as long as you want for the rest of your life. And Paul gave you that. Gave you that narrative in which to talk about his life and his death. Did he know that that was part of what he was doing?
Oh, I don't think so necessarily.
Yeah.
I
I mean, I
guess
would think it
for a
would be just like a
couple-
beautiful byproduct.
Yeah, I think so. He definitely conceived of it as a way to communicate with our daughter, so that he was aware of.
Yeah.
But then there also, like, the experience of facing death and just the physical pain and the logistics and the fact that there's a newborn there, like, we weren't like really projecting into the world after I couldn't even see my own future after his death. And I don't think he knew that Katie and I would extend into the future, but it was so intense at the time that, you know, he wasn't strategically planning a whole bunch of different stuff. Yeah.
Well,
and both of us, I mean, I was very surprised after he died that Random House said, would you like to write an epilogue and would you like to promote the book? I was sort of like, what? Yes, out of duty to Paul, and I'm so devoted to this. But then it turned out to be much more than I expected and different and better. And but anyway, yeah, we just didn't conceive of like all the possible like sequelae that could come.
Of course not.
Yeah.
And I also think, given the whole Buddhist line of thought, the lesson has got to be, hey, today you're alive.
Today you're alive.
And this is what we've got. We have exactly today. And that's all. I mean, we may not even have today, but we got this moment and this hour. And what an incredibly beautiful thing that is.
That helped with having a newborn, because it's like, how great is this crying baby? Like, we love this crying baby, you know? Like, yeah.
And a baby's got to be all about this present moment every second. So I have this theory about writing in general that we don't, writing and also speaking, being a human mammal, telling stories, we don't go back to the event. We go back to the last time we told the story of the event. So I was in New York on September 11th. I was about a block from the World Trade Center on September 11th. It was bad.
Yeah.
And then over time, I mean, at first I couldn't talk. I couldn't say anything about it. I would say, And then I slowly found a way to make it a story. And every time I told the story, I made it a better story. Not an untrue story, but I shaped it into a thing. Not because I'm a novelist, but because I'm a human. And so at first I couldn't go back. I couldn't tell the story until I could make it into something. And then I go back, and then I go back. And I think we all do that. With the happiest moments of our life, with the hardest moments of our life, we shape story, and we take that story in different ways. So you tell one story to an audience you don't know, you tell another story to your mother, you tell another version to your sister. But every now, so that's one of the reasons I don't worry about you, because I know you're not going back to that moment. You go back to Katie Couric, or you go back to the book, or...
Oh, I thought you were going to say the opposite, because like, what if you lose the moment? No, I don't know. but you still can remember it.
You know, it's that you shape, we shape the moment. But what is so shocking is that every now and then something happens that cracks it open and takes you from the story to the moment, to the actual thing. Like somebody can say something or give you something that just shocks you. And I remember, this happened maybe a month ago. One of Lucy's teachers in college sent me her report card, basically. He sent me the evaluation he had written for her in religion class. He was cleaning his files. I didn't know this guy.
Oh, wow, that's really nice.
And he sent it to me through the bookstore. And
That's so nice.
It was so nice. It was so nice. But it killed me. It just, like, I'm so good at talking about it, and I've got it so together, and I'm so far away from that event, and I just went down. So I wonder if, while you're out, like, if there are moments where you're learning things, or you're still just shaping the story. How is that all going?
Oh, wow, that's interesting. I haven't even thought about it in this type of framing before.
Well, it's my
like the
own
little
thing,
cocoon
yeah.
around the real thing,
Yeah.
and then like, oh yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I do have the experience of like things that hit you that just, you know, when you're grieving, like will make you suddenly cry and you didn't know you would, you know. Yeah, I don't know. When Random House asked if I wanted to write the epilogue and then said, I said, well, how detailed should I be about how Paul died? And they said, well, as detailed as you're comfortable being if you want to write about it. They were just like very gentle. And then I said, well, I kind of think I'll write about it because it's part of the story. It's the story of how Paul's life ended, which is part of his life.
Right.
And I think if he could have written it, he probably would have written it. So I should write it. And then as I was writing it, it's quite detailed. It's sort of like moment by moment of what's happening as he's getting sicker, and then what it felt like to be in the room when he was dying, and what the light looked like. And I'm so happy I have that actually as a
Yes.
description to like jog
Yes.
memories. So it's funny because that's like putting words on it, but in a way it's sort of I have photos too, but it was, you know. And actually Emily Rapp said, as you're writing this, put as many, like, I want more sensory details.
Yes.
So like, what did the light look like? What were the sounds? And I said this thing about the vinyl chairs that are in the hospital room. And she said, this goes back to something you said before, where she said, the more specific you can make it, the more universal it will end up feeling.
Totally.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then that was like a big part of writing it, was like the details of those days. So it's sort of like, I'm really glad there's all these like different layers of the story. There's like Paul's writing, and there's the real Paul, and a college friend of Paul's is here tonight, Kim, who we just talked before about how like this book is very funny, and Paul was super funny all the time, and like really just like, I don't know the right word exactly, but anyway, yeah, there's just all these versions of stories.
That's right.
It's different
and
things.
It's a little piece of the mosaic, but I had
Yeah.
such a sense of when I was writing Truth and Beauty that I was putting Lucy in a book like a leaf. Like I was going to press her there and keep
Like
her.
you wanted to.
It was a safe place to keep my memory of her. And I wanted as many details because I know how time works, and we forget. I mean, it's terrifying and soul-crushing to think that there are things that time takes away from our
Oh,
memory.
sure. Yeah.
So if I could keep her in this book, she would be safe.
There's a really good Robert Pinsky poem about this. Probably someone in this room knows this, about like the things that evaporate from your memory. It's so good. It's so good. But it's terrifying, especially when it's something like this, you know? You're like, but then I always think, well, even if I'm losing little details about days that I spent with Paul, I will not lose how I feel about Paul.
Right.
And that's kind of comforting, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to dump these for a second, for good, actually, because you're probably wanting to wave at me, because I haven't even looked at you the whole night. All right. Write a book, Lucy. Write a book.
About what?
Jesus.
No, I'm serious.
Must
It's
I draw you a map?
I'll ask you. Yes. No,
Yes.
it's writing is super hard for me. I wish I could talk a book.
You could
You
talk
know,
a book.
Could talk a book.
You could talk a book.
Could
But
talk a book.
the things that you're talking about,
Yeah.
don't you think? Oh, you who I've been not looking at all night. If you could write a book about the experience of grief,
Yeah.
the experience of interacting with the people that you know the best and the people who are strangers to you,
Yeah.
of bearing witness of unconditional love, of bravery, you know, the things that are coming for all of us. We need that book. We can talk about this, but Random House would be really, really happy to have that book. And people need this story that is your story as a bookend to Paul's story, as more than the epilogue, as more than a story about Paul, but as a story about you and what you've gone through and what you've learned, because you're scouting ahead, you know, you're the Sacagawea for the rest of us who are going there, and we could use the report.
It's funny because nope.
What?
Well, I was going to say I hate writing, and then now that I've like met some writers, I realize that
Hey, writers, do we hate writing
right?
or what?
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah. I'm a writer.
Yeah, you're a writer. You're one of us.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing
Thanks.
this so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. If I could please have your attention. I'm Elliot Gerson, Executive Vice President of the Aspen Institute, and I'd just like to, for those of you who didn't hear Mo in this wonderfully crowded room earlier, welcome all of you and thank you so much for being here in support of Aspen Words. I'm going to be very brief before calling a couple of people up. And what I want to say is just how incredibly excited we at the Aspen Institute are about Aspen Words, its history, its current status, and the extraordinary future that it has ahead of us. Aspen Words, which was then the Aspen Writers Foundation, came under the umbrella of the Aspen Institute. I think it was 7 years ago. And 3.5 years ago, it fell to me to find new leadership for this organization. And I couldn't have been more delighted with what was presented to me. And that was the dynamic duo of Mo LeMay, who had come from Repertory Regional Theater, and Adrian Brodeur, who came from the literary world in New York City. And they were each so terrific. I went to the board of what was then Aspen Writers Foundation and said, we have to hire both of them. And we did. And the excitement that you all see at Summer Words and at this event is due to their extraordinary leadership. Just a couple of weeks ago, Mo told me, and as I mentioned, we brought him from the Creed Repertory Theater, that his original passion for theater had overwhelmed him again with an offer that he couldn't resist, and he is going to be leaving us to go and head the theater department of Colorado Mesa University. And I want to just, on behalf of everyone, thank him. He's going to be here for about another month for the incredible job. He's done an absolutely incredible job, and he leaves Aspen Words in remarkable position for continuing greatness. Greatness not just in all the programs it provides to children in the Roaring Fork Valley and beyond, and all the wonderful things represented at Summer Words, and an increasingly national and global reach for Aspen Words. So I was faced with a challenge again. But it was not a difficult one at all, because we had the opportunity again to create another dynamic duo. And so what we will have here at Aspen Words, effective beginning of August, when Mo moves to his next challenge, is going to be an incredible team with Adrienne Brodeur, now as executive director of Aspen Words. She is going to remain in New York, but be here as often as necessary. And she's able to do that and have that responsibility in New York because of the extraordinary assistance she will have of the new managing director of Aspen Words, Jamie Kravitz. So I can tell, and you can all tell, and I can see from your enthusiasm that the best days of Aspen Words are ahead, and there is no limit to what Aspen Words can do to bring the power of literature and storytelling to not just the region, the nation, but the world. So my responsibility now is a very simple one. I would like to bring up this new dynamic duo to tell you a little bit about this evening, Adrienne and Jamie.
Thank you, Elliot, for the very kind introduction. Good evening, everyone. We are so happy to see you, and it's our pleasure to welcome you to our annual benefit. Aspen Words could not do the good work we do without the support of every single person in this room, and for that we are really grateful. As you may have heard, our theme tonight is extraordinary pairings. And so much of what we do at Aspen Words has to do with connecting people and bringing people together. So there are the very obvious pairings. For instance, our efforts to always match emerging writers and students with master writers in order to allow the generous process of mentorship to work its magic. Or there's our partnership with the Aspen Institute, an organization who understands the intrinsic value of literature and storytelling in a robust democracy and a just society. And of course, there's the extraordinary pairing of tonight's benefit speakers, Lucy Kalanithi and Ann Patchett. We are so lucky to have you here tonight. Thank you so much for coming. But there are many other less obvious pairings that go to the very heart of what we do at Aspen Words. Every book needs a reader, and every storyteller needs a listener. For books and stories only fully exist when they enter the hearts and minds of their intended audience. During her Winter Words talk in April, the author Sandra Cisneros said, "To listen to a story is an act of peace." I just love that line. To listen to a story is an act of peace. And with that in mind, I want you all to think about, what is your story? And what is the story of the person you are sitting next to? For in the end, it is our stories. Our stories are our way of insisting that every life matters. So from the novels and memoirs and poetry written by the esteemed authors who have graced us with their presence this week at Aspen Summer Words, and by that I mean our faculty, and they are sort of sprinkled throughout all these tables, I have been able to enter worlds that I could not have access to other than through my imagination and through their words. For above all, empathy is an endeavor where you have to put yourself in someone else's shoes, which is the same as saying to put yourself in someone else's story. So I'll give you 3 short examples. From George Hodgman's lovely memoir, Bettyville, I was able to imagine what it might be like to be a shy Midwestern boy growing up in a small town where no one, not even my own parents, was able to discuss or talk to me about my homosexuality. From Ann Patchett's novel, State of Wonder, I could imagine what it might be like to be an isolated 42-year-old Minnesotan woman who suddenly took a wild Amazon adventure. And from Dr. Bel Calanithi's stunning memoir, When Breath Becomes Air, I learned about grace and what it is that makes life worth living when at 36 years old, you are told in no uncertain terms that you are not going to have the future that you have always imagined. At Aspen Words, our mission is to encourage writers, to inspire readers, and to connect people through their stories. And in light of recent events in our own country and in the world, our mission has never felt more urgent to me than it does right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. But there's one more pairing, perhaps the most extraordinary pairing of this evening, and that's you and Aspen Words. Depending on how your night is going, you might think it's you and your table mates. But for that, I think we also made a great team. The entire process of making books and sharing them with the world requires pairings. Agents and editors, bookstores and readers, and writers and their teachers who meet at writing conferences like Aspen Summer Words. Your ticket to this evening directly supports writers in every stage of their careers, from fledgling to far-reaching and famous. But sometimes that impact is not directly apparent. Sometimes it takes years to see results. It takes a long time to write a book. Creating art takes time. Bel Canto wrote his book, When Breath Becomes Air, knowing he may never see it in print. He knew he was planting seeds in a garden he would not grow. You are also planting seeds, the results of which may take years to grow. It's my honor tonight to introduce our emerging writing fellowships pairs, who we pair yet to be published writers from across the country with esteemed faculty for a week of workshops at Summer Words. Over 150 applicants are nominated by publishing professionals, MFA programs, and other writers for just 7 spots. These fellows represent the next generation of literary luminaries. So really quickly, I just want to ask them to stand, and if you will all applaud them, please. And I'm going to say their names so you can look for their books. There's Amanda Fouché, A.L. Major, A.K. Small, Esther Amini, Jessica Souchon, Sarah Eisner, and Stephen Narain. So one last thing, and we'll be done here. I want to tell you all that tonight you can help us plant even more seeds. The Cato Shaw Foundation has pledged to match any gift tonight made up to $75,000. Our auction will close just after dinner. There's still time to get out there. Last I saw, Kim Master was going to win the San Miguel house. Someone better get out there. Or with the seed packets that were left at each table for just this purpose. Let me say that one more time. Every gift made tonight is matched dollar for dollar by the Cato Shaw Foundation. So I encourage you to please consider giving to us tonight. But that's it. For now, enjoy your meal, enjoy each other, and just in a few moments, we'll get to hear from Lucy and Ann over dessert. Thank you.
Thank you.